settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive thoughts.
What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It is your boy Devan, and we are joined by none other than Greg Mohr. He is a visionary entrepreneur. He is a Wall Street Journal best-selling author, and he is also the founder of franchise Maven. And you already know how that intertwines with what we have going on in Strive 11. So it's going to be an awesome episode, really dig in on some of those questions. But, with Greg, I wanted to bring him on because he's built this franchise empire, and it was really rooted in his philosophy of treating employees and treating a team with respect and really empowering them to grow, right? And really empowering your team to grow. And that principle is allowed him and guided him in helping over 260 individuals open up, 500 franchise territories, which is an amazing accomplishment. And he even wrote a book, if you guys want to check it out, called Real Freedom and the Expert Resilience, right? So that link will be in the show notes as well if you guys want to check out his book. But in it offers basically a roadmap to financial freedom and his own personal growth, journey throughout franchising. And he's showing it right now if you guys are watching, and really sharing actionable insights and telling some of those inspiring stories for other entrepreneurs that were ready to take that leap. So without further ado, Greg, thank you so much.
Devan, thank you very much for having me today. It is an honor to be on your show.
No, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. You're a busy man. So let's dive in a little bit. How did the whole franchise Maven, or how did the whole franchise industry start for you?
Back when I was in high school, as a matter of fact, when I was 16 years old, I had to get a job somewhere, and it turned out that Taco Bell was hiring at the time, or I knew the managers, or a combination thereof. Went to work for them and moved up in the Taco Bell world and became a manager, and found out I was working for a lady named Kathy, who was a master franchisor for Taco Bell and owned about 50 of them throughout the Sacramento, California area. I helped her build her teams in her different restaurants throughout there, bebopped around to many different ones, and found that the franchising thing was just absolutely wonderful. Just loved it. Although I didn't do it right away afterwards. I spent 30 years in corporate, but after getting out of corporate, I said, I got to get back into doing that.
That's awesome. So you worked for a franchisee, and I mean, 50 locations, that's huge, right? That's huge for an entrepreneur, let alone a business owner, to have 50 locations, right? And so with you, getting hired and working your way up the ranks, when was it, noticed that, I want to start, really helping more so than just this one location?
I think it was the enjoyment I had with working with individual teams and building them up. I'd go in there. There's a few restaurants. I didn't do all 50 at first, but I did quite a few of them throughout the area. And I really like going in there and just finding out, what the team and what the people were all about, and what their goals were and what they were trying to accomplish. Why were they here? Is this a stepping stone to something else? Or are you just here to bring in a little extra income? What were you looking to get out of it? And then I would get together with all the people individually and work on whatever their goals were. If they wanted to move up and, learn more responsibilities, then I'd help them with that. If they're just here to make money, then I'd, just help them be part of the team and work on that as well.
No, that's
and I
awesome.
really enjoyed doing that. It was just a whole lot of fun.
No, yeah, you find someone's purpose, like what their goals are, and then you align the business, right, to their goals, and that's how you essentially create, lasting teams and employees or team members that want to serve because you're aligning with what they want. You're not trying to make them fit a cookie cutter role, with a cookie cutter purpose, right? If it's to buy a dream house, okay, well, what's the avenues that we can take here to try to get you to your goal, right? And then seeing them light up when they hit their goal, there's no other feeling. There's no other feeling like it. It's almost like a natural high you get when you see someone else growing and really taking into their own, right?
Absolutely, Devan.
So that's awesome. So now that you're working with this franchisee and really growing, her teams, what was that next step for you?
My next step should have been to go out and buy myself a Taco Bell, but I went on to manage another restaurant that was not a franchise. It was a Lions restaurant chain. It's kind of like an upscale Denny's over in Northern California. And I went around to a few of their different restaurants and managed those. I got bored after about 15 years. I worked in the restaurant industry. So then I went back to, or I went to school, went to college, got a master or a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and physics, and became a microelectronic circuit engineer. Went on and got a master's degree in business. And then after about 15 years with that, I got kind of bored. I'd actually bought a couple of rental properties in there, and a friend of mine and I, we went in together for a dry cleaners and some storage units. We got those together. We both left the corporate world after about 15 years of doing that. I sold off all my shares of the business, the dry cleaners and the storage units, to my partner. And I said, now is the time. I like that franchise thing. Doing that dry cleaners as a privately owned business was when you knew nothing about the dry cleaning industry. It just seemed like a good essential service to buy. And we did. And we had to, really dig into it ourselves and figure it all out. But I said that franchising thing, I didn't have to figure out all by myself because they've got that game plan right there for you, that business in a box. So I said, I got to get back into that. So I did, got myself a franchise with the help of a franchise consultant who knew they existed. I did not at the time, but he helped me out find a nice franchise. So I did that for a couple of years. And then I thought to myself, I like what you do as a franchise consultant, Mister. Teach me what you do. I want to do that. And that was about 12 years ago. I haven't looked back since.
Oh, nice. What was, if you don't mind me asking, what was the franchise that you got into?
Schooley Mitchell Telecommunications Consulting. So we help businesses reduce their telecommunications bills. Schooley Mitchell has since gone on to do all sorts of cost reduction analysis on those. But Dennis Schooley, the one that ran it, he really set the stage for what a franchise was all about. The absolute wonderful training, everything you needed to know. You're never guessing what to do next. And he was a great trainer, had a great team. That was a lot of fun. It was a bit of a driving around. I lived in outside of Austin, Texas at the time, and I had to go into Austin to meet with the business people. Little too much driving around for what I was interested in, which is why I went back to the franchise consultant who got to work from home and work with people all over the U.S. I said, that's more what I'm interested in.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, because you made not one career shift, but two, and both being fairly significant, right? Going back to school and to become an electrical engineer or micro circuit electrical engineer, right?
Yep.
And like that has complete bipolar opposite of Taco Bell team leader and restaurant team leader and building up businesses. And so like that, and switching back and then going back into business, like you really set the stage for showing people that you can pivot anytime in your life and do what you want to fulfill your purpose. If you feel like you're getting quote unquote bored, right, then and you're not really filling your cup or your purpose, you can pivot, right? There's no it's too late, right? After 15 years, you made one pivot, a few years later, boom, another pivot. And it's like, look, you could do it at any time and still be a successful individual and a successful business person. So what, with the books that you wrote and with your experience now as a consultant and stuff, what makes franchising such a unique and effective path for someone in financial freedom?
The fact that you have a whole team of people that are going to help you grow the business, that are interested in you growing your business. So you've got that franchisor there. That is their role, is to help you grow your business. So you have to be able to be mentored and follow a process and procedures. It's kind of a given when you get into franchising. But you've got that team of people that will help you grow there. You've got that business that you can step right into, never wondering what to do next. There's always going to be a step-by-step process. In addition to that, you're going to talk with many different franchisees who are part of that system. And for the most part, franchises have territories that you're going to be into. So nobody competes with each other. So as you go through the process and you're talking with other franchisees, those are also people that are going to help you grow your business, since nobody's competing with each other on that. So you just got a huge team of people that are going to help you grow. And the franchise has already made all the mistakes, getting into the business and growing it up and finally turning it into a franchise. So all those mistakes are out of the way. And that's what you want. Because we made a lot of mistakes when we were doing the dry cleaning and the storage units weren't too bad, but the dry cleaners was kind of a challenge. So there's a lot of mistakes to be made. We made them and we found our way around it. But these are all in the past with a franchise. And that's what you're looking for. Business in a box, grow that business, team of people to help you.
No, see, that's awesome. And believe me, as a franchisor, I can tell you, yes, we have made the mistakes. we have spent the money and we have spent the stress. Now that you've helped over 260 people, open over 500 territories, what are some of the qualities that you look for someone that wants to become a successful franchisee or franchise owner?
First one is you've got to have a little bit of risk tolerance. Business is always risky. No matter what, there's going to be some risk in it. You reduce it when you get into a franchise, but there's still that risk. So a little bit of risk tolerance on there. You have to be able to be mentored, right? You can have a mentor. That franchise is going to help you grow. That's their goal in life, is to make sure you make more money than they make more money. You have to be able to follow a system and process. You've got those systems and processes in place. Doesn't mean you can't be creative. You probably don't want to be too creative in the beginning. You want to follow their systems and processes and do that on there. And you have to be able to be a self-starter. Really, the franchise is not going to call you up in the morning and make certain that you got up. It's got to be you. So you've got to be a self-starter. You've got to go out and do it. They're going to have those systems and processes in place for you, but it's up to you to go out there and work them on a regular basis.
Right. You're getting all the tools and all the answers. You just got to make sure that, you actually implement them and follow the guide. It's like if you get something from IKEA and then you decide not to, read the instruction manual, and then you're looking at all the pieces, like it probably is not going to turn out the way you thought it should. Right. What are, in your book, Real Freedom, you discuss, why franchises are worth considering. What are maybe some of the misconceptions that people have about franchising that you would like to dispel?
Great question, Devan. Especially from my investors that come into me, or most people that come to me on there. The first thing we think about, Devan, is the things that we see when we're out driving around, which is a big brick and mortar franchise. McDonald's, Taco Bell, Meineke, Mako, Supercuts, Great Clips. All those things, we think about them as being brick and mortar franchises, and we think of them as being a large investment on that, which is just not always the case. That's a brick and mortar franchises. That's one half of the industry. The other half of the industry is the service industry. So with a brick and mortar, you build it, they will come. General theme on that. Great franchise, get you a great real estate location, you're good to go. Service industry is a little bit different. So a brick and mortar, you're looking probably at $300,000 plus to invest in that. Service industry, you're looking at around $150,000, give or take, if you need any equipment on something like that. Work from home, where you go out and visit with your clients, small office, so it doesn't take a whole lot, not a whole lot of overhead on that one. Service industry is where your customers don't necessarily know you exist until they need you. So you need a good franchise or great franchise to drive people to you when that need arises. And the other thing that people are not always aware of is the fact that you don't have to do these full time. You can do them semi-absentee. Now, when you're working with me, we're going to go and we're going to talk with as many semi-absentee owners as possible. So you get a really good feel of what exactly does that semi-absentee really mean. And it's going to vary by franchise. So I'm going to make certain that you know what it means for that particular franchise and you're good with that. But basically, if you're good with building teams, you work with teams before on that, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be hiring the manager. The manager's going to run it. You're going to oversee the manager. You're going to oversee the profit and loss statements on that one. So if that are things that you've done before, and maybe even have somebody in mind to be your manager, then you're off to a really good start.
No, that's awesome. And I mean, I know you mentioned that, a business is still risk, and 100% it is. And you are able to limit down that margin a little bit when you're coming onto a franchise, right? Because you have a proven system. You're not having to solve every, obstacle that comes up. You have a team that's already, faced those things. And I tell people that, what is fear, right? Because opening a business, people don't open them typically because they have fear. And so what is fear? Fear is the unknown, right? But coming onto a franchise system, you're coming onto a team that is not their fear, because they already know you're unknown, right? It's like they're your guide in a dark forest with the light, right? But without them, you're just walking through the dark forest with no light, right? So that's how you have to kind of look at it. Now, with your original background, as a restaurant manager and a turnaround specialist for those restaurants and stuff that were in distress or really got in a sticking point, maybe what were some of the lessons that you learned and really earned that knowledge from those early experiences that still guide you today in dealing with, franchisee prospects?
Listen to people, get to know them, Devan. That's the biggest thing. Don't just dictate to them. Don't just tell them. When I sit down with my clients, the same thing I did with my employees when I was at Taco Bell, is really just sit down, ask a few questions, then just sit back and listen. Let them do the talking. get a good feel for what they're all about, what they're trying to accomplish, where they've been, where are they at now, where do they want to be. That is one of the biggest things that you can do, is just listen to your people. In my case, listen to my people when I was back in the restaurant business, which I did for quite some time. And then now with my clients, listening to them. What are they all about? Where do they want to go? What do they see a franchise doing for them? Is it reasonable? It's a good thing on that. So I have to know, what are you looking to do? I want to be a millionaire in a year. It ain't going to happen. Okay. Let's get that out of the way right now. It's going to take a little work. You will probably get there if you do the right things, and we'll set you down that path, but it will take a while. So listening to the people, and asking a few pointed questions along the way so you can get to know them better is really the biggest thing.
No, see, and I think that's so awesome that you mentioned that, because typically in business, a business can really struggle. One, from listening. They say they're listening to their team. They say they're listening to their customers, but they're not, right? They're hearing the words that are coming out of these individuals' mouths, but then they're just waiting for the next thing to say that they're already planning on saying. They're not guiding them or answering the questions or concerns that one individual had, right? And so when you're listening, you actually have to listen to the questions that you're asking and not use those questions as to just pitch your next idea that you have lined up in a row and give people basically cookie cutter conversations, right?
Yeah, that's very true. There's a quote that I heard one time or another. If you speak, you can only tell somebody something you already know, but if you listen, you may learn something new. Don't I use
Yes.
that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how you can, my whole thing is you can extract a lesson in every day, right? And that might be through a conversation with someone, might be something you read, but you have to actually listen, because you're going to get maybe not something that you didn't already know, but you're going to get a new perspective on something that you already knew. And that is a whole nother area that now you can basically walk in someone else's shoes and explain it to them in a way that makes sense for them, right? Because just like how people learn differently, people understand differently as well. And what I mean by that is from conversation, right? If I give you an analogy and that analogy has nothing to do with any of your past experiences in your life, it's not going to click with you. But if I reframe it in a way that you've said, you have a background in, engineering and stuff, and all of a sudden, if I give that same analogy with an engineering twist on it, all of a sudden you're like, oh, boom, makes sense, right? So that's so awesome. And so diving into that a little bit with your philosophy of, treating employees with respect and really listening to their concern, how has that helped your approach and your client's approach in really succeeding?
One of my questions every week when I talk to my clients is, what are your fears? What are your concerns? What are your questions? So that's one of the first questions I ask them. We get those out of the way as we're going through the process of investigating a franchise, because franchising is not for everybody. There's probably a franchise out there for everybody, but franchising is not for everybody on that one. So I want to get those fears, concerns, and questions out of the way as quickly as possible. Always ask those questions. People are very open when you start off with those. So, and then maybe franchising is not right for them. We'll figure that out along the way. And if I hear too many fears, too many concerns, or there are too many negative things that they're saying, I'll just let them know. Maybe now is not quite the right time for this sort of thing. And why don't we just put this on hold, let you think about it for a while? So it's been really very helpful, and people appreciate it. People appreciate my open honesty and no sales approach to guiding them through the investigation process.
No, yeah. I mean, that's where people don't understand. It's like, it shouldn't be a sale, right? Like, even for us with our franchise system, like, we don't sell people franchises, right? We have a solution, but if the solution doesn't line up with them, then we don't do it. Like, even though we're in the earlier stages of franchising, we're not a Taco Bell or something like that. It's been around for decades, but I've turned down franchisees just because I knew that they weren't ready for it mentally yet, right? After a few conversations, I'm like, look, let's come back to this in a year. And if, let's come back to this in 6 months. I'll reach back out. And if you still really are considering it, then we'll do it. But I feel like if we continue this conversation, I'm going to end up selling you on it. And that's not what I want from you, right? I want you to want to do this, and it's for you, right? So you have to really understand that. And sometimes as the salesperson, in quotes, you have to understand that their success is not on buyer's remorse, right? They have to be bought in themselves. They can't be sold in, right? Because you're not going to create a community or a culture, right? But what would your advice be to someone who that maybe is on the fence about investing into a franchise versus starting their own business. So the entrepreneurs, that's what they want to become, right? But they just don't know, and they're on the fence. Should I buy a franchise? Should I do it myself?
That is two things that you should look at. If you're thinking about going into business that way, do a comparison. Go out and find out, do you have the latest, greatest idea? First off, if you're going to start something from scratch, do you know how to put it all together? Do you know what it takes to get it all put together? If you don't, figure it out. I mean, there's lots of resources out there. Do that. So you've got one column where this is what I've got to do to build my own business, or buy an existing business, privately owned businesses. Good points and bad points about either one. You have your own business, you buy an existing privately owned business, you can do whatever you want with it. It is totally yours. No franchise fee, no royalties. Any territory, any person you want to talk to, you can go in there and do that. But you're on your own. You've got to do it yourself. You've got to go out and find people who are experts if you're not, and you've got to get help. Just like with us and the dry cleaners, it was a big challenge on that one. From my point of view, I looked at franchises as well, since I'd already done the privately owned business. So what do you get with a franchise? Well, you got the one-time franchise fee, generally $50,000, give or take. Doesn't matter which franchise you get into. One-time fee gets you everything trained, everything you need to know about that franchise. Then you got your ongoing royalties. Royalties are generally between 5 and 10% off the top, generally speaking, off of those. And that's the incentive that the franchisor has to make certain that you do well. The more royalties you pay, the busier you are, the more money you're making, and the more money the franchise makes. And you've got that whole team of people that are going to help you grow and help you build your business. So yes, a franchise can help you grow, help you build your business. You're getting some money off the top taken away for that support. So the question is, when it comes down to, when you're comparing the two, take a look at them. If you're young, you've got the money, you've got the time, by all means, start something of your own. We'll turn it into a franchise. Who knows on that one? Just like Devan. Or, you buy an existing business or something like that, where you step right into it. Somebody's already done some of the work for you. So maybe that's the way to go. But I would do a comparison and contrast. There's good and bad points about most of the things, or all the things. But look at them both. Do the research on both. See which one fits you for your needs right now at this point in time. With a franchise, you want that franchise to get you to where you want to be 2 to 3 years quicker, at least, than if you were to go out there and do it yourself.
No, that's so true. And I think it's funny. I really didn't think about this until now. When you were saying that, is yes, we did it on our own and launch it into a franchise, right? And if someone's concern is basically, well, I don't want to have to pay a franchise fee and pay a royalty, and they think that it's just going to save more money, I will let you know, at least in my experience, I've hired mentors, I've hired coaches, I've hired other things that maybe it's not a royalty that lasts, for the lifetime of the business, but believe me, it's a continuing process as well, and is just as expensive, if not more expensive, to go out and do it that way as well. So you're already essentially getting that mastermind aspect to it, with the other franchisees in that community. And then you're getting basically the mentor, the coach already all included, with that model, versus having to go basically vet, your own coach and your own person to align with what you're doing. So I think that is so true, but it doesn't, franchising isn't the answer for everyone, just like entrepreneurship isn't the answer for everyone, right? Not everyone is made out for the entrepreneurial life, right? And that's okay. And that's okay.
True. True. Yeah. You figure it out. Check it out. If you're interested, check it out. Look into it. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I've had people come back to me 3 years later and say, now is the time. It may take a while.
So what would some of the biggest challenges that you see in aspiring franchise owners facing today? And then how are you helping kind of overcome it with them?
For the people that want to get into franchising, the biggest thing is confusion behind the fact that there are so many different franchises to choose from out there. There's like 5,000 franchises in the US today. So there's many to choose from. There's a lot of confusion with which one, how do I pick them out? How do I decide which one's best for me? So there's some basic things like, what is the franchise requirement for your net worth? Some of those are easy. What is the background requirement for the franchise? So what are your skill set? So if you go into a Sandler sales training franchise, obviously some sales training would probably be useful on that, maybe quite a bit, if you're going to teach other people to be sales. So know what that background is on that. And that's hard for people if you just go out there and do it yourself on that, to narrow that field down. Then which ones are available in your area, on that one. How much room do you have to expand if you get into it? If you want to know, for instance, like how many franchisees do they have, what years and how many years in service. So you may be looking at different things. There's a lot of things and factors to consider. What do the other franchisees say? So when I put somebody into a franchise, we're going to go through this whole process. So I've kind of got to know when I put my folks in front of other franchisees in that franchise system, what they're going to hear on that. Because if they start hearing bad things, they're going to think I'm an idiot and I'm putting them in. I don't know what I'm talking about putting them in the franchise. So I kind of got to know what the franchisees are saying about that franchise system. And it better be good on that one too, to get them into it. So what I help is just kind of eliminate all that confusion and having you go through a lot of work to really narrow down which franchise, which industries would be a good fit for you and your skill set.
No, that's awesome. And I think that is so important. And with franchising, there's often the complex, like, navigating journey of these systems and agreements and so forth when you're trying to, really basically compare a franchise A to franchise B. What are maybe some of the important factors that you tend to consider when evaluating a franchise or lead your clients, to consider?
The factors that I look at with a franchise is when I talk to my people and find out what are they looking to get in, what are they looking at a franchise. So some of the basic ones are the service industry versus brick and mortar. So how much are you comfortable investing in a franchise on that? The longevity of the franchise, I consider that quite a bit, especially for my people who are really getting new into the franchise system. There's emerging brands, and then there's the ones that have been around for a while. On that one, if you want to reduce your risk quite a little bit more, you probably get into something that's been around for a while. Although with an emerging brand, the good point is that you're working more directly with the franchisor themselves on that, and you help to grow the system as well. So it really comes down to what you're looking to do. If I'm doing an emerging brand for somebody, I'll get to know that franchisor on that pretty well. I had a gentleman that looked at a senior care, and he wanted just franchises that had 100 or more franchisees, but he wanted really personalized direct service because he'd never been in a franchise before. So I said, okay. I showed him both. I showed him an emerging brand that had 5 franchisees in it, that I knew the franchise people. I knew why they built the franchise system. I knew what they were all about. So I trusted them. And then I showed him ones that had 100 franchisees or more. And he went with the emerging brand, and he's doing just absolutely fantastic in senior care because he really got to know those 2 individuals that operated and started it. And I knew them as well, and I knew they were great individuals. So he loved them, and he got in emerging brands. So many, many different factors in there that we go over together in order to narrow down the right one for you.
No, see, I think that's awesome. And there are different fits for different people. I mean, even in my conversations with people, it's some people do want that comfort level of having, 100, 500, 1,000 locations under a franchisor's belt. And then you do have other people that like the emerging factor where they get to be on the ground floor and they get to really have a helping hand in establishing the franchise. And who knows, that might even lead to opportunities and stuff within them, having a role in the actual franchisor company, right? And that's where people have to know the difference. Like, do you just want a copy and paste, or do you want to take a different step and have maybe even a role in true entrepreneurship of having some of the creativity aspect behind the actual brand for future people to come on as well? So there is two sides of the coin. You just have to know which side you're looking for.
Great point, Devin. If you want to be a little bit more creative, you definitely get into an emerging brand on that and helping them grow and helping them develop their systems. Whereas with somebody that's got 100, 500 franchisees, you're not going to be very, very creative, and they're going to have a good solid system behind you, but just follow the solid system because they're probably not going to let you deviate a whole heck of a lot.
Right. No. And so that's the thing is, like, both, there's no right answer. You just have to know what you want and what your purpose is, right? If you want that creative side, then by all means. But if you want something that's just more like a steady investment, right? Then you go with that, right? You got to do what's right for you. Now, with your journey, right? Before we wrap things up, I like to ask people this question, and I don't like to tell people ahead of time because I want the first thing that comes to mind, right? On Greg's legacy wall, right? It's not a tombstone, it's a legacy wall. What is the one message, short or long, that you would leave for the up and coming entrepreneurs, franchisees, generations, whatever the message may be?
I can now do whatever I want, whenever I want, and I have the money to do it. I want to do the same thing for you.
Okay. Explain it a little bit.
So right now, I've gotten into been franchising for a long time. So I've got enough money coming in on a regular basis so I can set my own schedule. So I can do whatever I want right now. If I want to work with clients, I work with clients. If I don't want to, I don't have to on that one. So I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, set my schedule, and having the money to do it. So I've got the nice systems and processes in place that I put, like I do with the franchise system, where money just rolls in, comes in on a regular basis. Took a little work up front. Don't get me wrong, it'll take a little while to get there, but that's what I want to do for people as well. I was working 7 to 5 as an engineer uh, uh, in the manufacturing industry, and I didn't have a whole heck of a lot of time for myself. And occasionally on weekends they do it, and I didn't particularly care to stay till 5 o'clock. I kind of like to leave at 4. So now I leave. I generally don't do anything past 4, and I'll take an hour and a half for lunch if I want to. They didn't particularly care for it if you took an hour and a half for lunch. They kind of like the half an hour for lunch. Like, why don't you at your desk all day? That gets old after a while. It did for me on that one. So that's where I thought I got to get out of the corporate world and do this. And that's what I like to do for people. Show you that there is that opportunity to do that. There is that option to do that. And that option can be through franchising.
That is so awesome. Well, where can people connect with you and learn more about what you have going on with Franchise Maven?
You can go to my website, franchisemaven.com. That's franchise, M-A-V as in Victor, E-N.com. Email me at greg@franchisemaven.com, or just pick up the phone and give me a call at 361-772-6401.
And guys, that will definitely be in the show notes if you guys missed it. Greg, thank you so much for coming on. And guys, if you listen to this and you're even considering franchising whatsoever, connect with Greg. He has a plethora of experience, as you've heard, in the industry. But connect with him, follow him on social media, and make sure you guys share the show. Maybe someone else, one of your friends, been talking about becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a business owner. This might be the episode for them. So leave us that 5-star review. And Greg, thanks so much for taking the time.
Devin, I appreciate you having me, sir. Thank you.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Cause in the game of life, mindset calls the shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to be slacking. I hustle hard, I go against